and a warm welcome to Rise and Thrive. This is your host, Lady D. How is everyone doing? We are back this week after a while. We've had a season when we haven't had Rise and Thrive, but now we are back and we have some exciting things that God wants to teach us in this season and continue to allow us to rise and to continue to thrive in our various areas of life and calling. It's good to see everyone. And if you're watching me right now, I welcome you. Please remember to tag someone so that we can all be blessed and we can all grow from one degree of glory to another, that we may continue to thrive in our various callings. So welcome, and if you watch this later, please do share as well. And I encourage you, as you watch live, this is a conversation. Much as I cannot respond immediately, I will respond when I'm done with the broadcast so that we can keep this short and sweet. So I will be sharing, but I want to hear your views. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your interactions and discussions around this same topic, even as we go ahead and acquire wisdom together. So I'm super excited as we go ahead today. I want to remind you that while I've been offline in terms of Rise and Thrive, I have written an ebook which is available for you to download, and it's completely free. It's a gift from me. When I turned 50, that was a gift that I gave everyone that felt they needed to draw from my ministry, draw from my experience. The title is Unmute Her, the Silenced Woman's Guide to Finding Her Voice. So that's a topic for another day. So make sure that you download that free ebook. My book, Bounce Back Stronger, is still on sale. You can get it in various ways. Just get in touch if you need a copy. Now, straight into our topic. We will be speaking about the arrival fallacy. The arrival fallacy. And I will start by giving some definitions. Please feel welcome. I will be giving some definitions so that we are all sitting on the same page and we understand what we are talking about. So I'm talking about the arrival fallacy. So the arrival fallacy is simply, you know, trying to postpone your happiness for a future time after certain things that you're expecting have happened. So I want you to understand why getting there doesn't always make you happy. We are always waiting to get there. We are waiting for certain things to fall into place. You know, finding contentment before you reach the destination that you're looking for can be a bit tricky, and it might need you to lean into some wisdom that I'm going to share today, because most of us tell ourselves, oh, I will start my business when I have enough money, or I will change certain things in my life when I get a promotion. So we are always deferring contentment. We are always deferring joy. We are deferring happiness. And I want to help us with something today as we lean into this wisdom. So I want to ask you a question. What are you waiting for before you allow yourself to be happy? What is that thing that you've said, until this happens, I will not move from this position. Until this happens, I will not do this. Maybe you're thinking, I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I finally buy my own house. Some of us, that's the goal. That will bring us joy. That will bring us contentment. Some of us are saying, I will be happy when I get promoted. I will be happy when my finances improve. That's a common one. When my children are grown and they're all established, and some of us are looking forward to, oh, when our children are grown, and then, we can have that empty nester season where we can begin to rediscover ourselves. Oh, we'll be happy when we retire. Some of us don't like going to work. So whatever it is that you're deferring, I want you to pause and think about it. Now think about this. Have you ever noticed what happens after you finally get to that destination? After you get there, at first, you are excited. Yes, we bought a new house. Yes, I've gotten married. Yes, I've written the book that I was trying to write. And we celebrate. You and I celebrate. You enjoy that moment. And then life settles down. Okay? The excitement begins to fade. And suddenly, there's another goal that we want to achieve before we can be happy. And another dream that we need to attain before we can be happy, another destination. And before long, you are saying to yourself, I'll be happy when, all over again. So, this is what I want to talk to us about today. I want to talk about something called the arrival fallacy. Now, this is a psychological term which is meant to highlight the belief that lasting happiness is waiting for us at our next destination. And as followers of Christ, we know something that the world often misses, that the problem isn't about having goals. The problem is expecting our goals to give us what only God can provide. And that is contentment. That is true joy and true happiness and true fulfillment in life. We know that all that comes from God. So, by definition, psychologists call this arrival fallacy. So, simply put, it is a belief that life will be better when dot dot dot. Life will be better. I will finally be happy when this and this happens. Everything will fall into place after this and this happens. Now, hear me carefully, beloved. There is nothing wrong with having dreams, nothing wrong with having goals. As a life coach, I will tell you, you need to have goals, goals for your personal life, goals for your career, goals for your business, goals for your ministry and your calling. You need to have goals in life. But what I'm saying to you today is that much as there's nothing wrong with goals and working hard, there's nothing wrong with pursuing excellence. I'm all for it. God calls us to be faithful stewards. The problem begins, beloved, when we confuse achievement with fulfillment. When we think that every achievement eventually, will bring us that this is it, I've arrived, and God is now finally working in my life. Every achievement eventually becomes normal. It becomes your new normal. The new job becomes routine. There's a way the brain is wired, beloved, to be excited about novelty, about things that are new, about pursuing new things. And I'll give an example of a young man pursuing a girl. The first time they see her, it's like, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything this beautiful. And when they reach the goal of having this person as their fiancé or their wife, they get familiar, and then, they begin to be complacent. And it begins to look normal. And this is why in marriage or in relationships, when you have been in a relationship for a while, in fact, from the get go, you need to understand that you need to continue the same effort that you used to put in of pursuing one another, because the brain has a way it's wired that when things become familiar, they begin to lose that sense of excitement that makes this thing that you've been desiring or pursuing look very familiar and normal. And so it does become something that you struggle to draw joy from. I'm sure you know what I mean. So the new job also may become routine and become familiar, and the new house might begin to need repairs. So the promotion also will also bring pressure. Everything will begin to look normal, and that excitement that we had begins to die down. And this is where now the arrival fallacy, the fallacy or the false belief that we will arrive at some destination, becomes now something that is to be challenged, even from a scriptural point of view. We need to understand that there's no place you will ever get where you will be fully content and say, yeah, now I have enough money. Now I'll stop here. Yeah, now I have the house that I wanted. After you get the house, there will always be something else that you want to achieve. So, if our joy depends on arriving somewhere, beloved, hear this. Our peace will always be temporary. Success is a blessing. Marriage is a blessing. Financial stability is a blessing. Recognition is a blessing. But none of these were ever designed to carry the weight of your identity. The problem becomes when we begin to attach who we are to what we want to accomplish. So I will be viewed as a person that is acceptable in my circles when I buy a house or when I get two houses like the other people in my circle have. When we begin to attach our identity and our sense of worth to arriving or achieving or attaining things, then that becomes a problem. True contentment isn't found in reaching a destination, beloved. It is found in walking daily with Christ. And this is why the Bible says godliness with contentment is great gain. Because there's some people who are godly, but they're not content with the lives that they are living. And so I want us today to draw some wisdom from the life of the Apostle Paul. And we're going to zero in and kind of link and attach it to this psychological concept of the arrival fallacy. So, Paul learned the secret. You know, when we look at the life of the Apostle Paul, if anyone had a reason to postpone joy, it would have been the Apostle Paul. We know that it was Paul that went through shipwreck. His experiences were prison, persecution, rejection, hunger, uncertainty, physical suffering. Paul went through it all. By the world's standard, we would say that Paul had every reason to complain. Yet, from prison, beloved, he writes these words and he says to us, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances, whatever the circumstances. Now, note the key word here, learned, which simply means that contentment is something to be learned. It's not something that comes by default. It is something you take time to train yourself in. Don't miss this word, learned. It is to be learned. It is to be learned. It is not automatic. It doesn't come with age, beloved. There are a lot of people who have been through life and they are still not content. It doesn't come with age. It doesn't come with wealth. It doesn't come with success. Contentment doesn't come with time. It is developed. It is what you do with that time in regards to contentment that will actually help you move through seasons of discouragement when you're not reaching your destination and you are awaiting that magic accomplishment to complete your fulfillment. Paul wasn't born content. He had to learn contentment. The Bible actually shows us that he became content through his relationship with Christ. He leaned upon Christ. And he continues by saying, I know what it is to be in need. These are the words of the Apostle Paul. And I know what it is to have plenty. Beloved, you might be watching me right now and you know what it is to really go through suffering. You know what it is to really lack. You know what it is to be persecuted. You know what it is to be found in that place where you are pushed down, and you know that this is the most difficult place to be. But Paul experienced that, and he experienced both being in a position of lack and being in a position of plenty. And some of us, like the apostle, may have experienced this. He had seasons of abundance as well, and he had seasons of lack. So his circumstances never changed from worse to better to even better. So we must understand that even with our lives, there are seasons when things will happen to us that will cause us to feel like God has forsaken us. Things that will happen in our lives that will make us feel like there is much more that needs to happen for us to feel the joy of the Lord. And we know that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And when we don't have joy, we don't have strength. But beloved, our joy should never be linked to things that we are waiting to happen. Here's another thing that the Apostle Paul said. He said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. What does this mean? Beloved, we often quote this verse when we're talking about achieving success. I can do all things. I can, run a successful business. I can start a powerful ministry. We always relate it to success. But in context, Paul is saying something much deeper here. He is saying whether life is easy or difficult, whether I have much or little, Christ gives me the strength to remain faithful and to remain content and to remain grateful and to remain happy now in the present moment, in this present time. I will be content. I will look around me and see what God has done. And I will remember that I'm not waiting for a point in the future where I will be happy. Yes, the future may hold happy moments. It may hold joyous moments. It may hold more prosperous moments. But for now, I will see what God has put before me, and I will say, this is what God has done, and it is marvelous in my eyes. Beloved, one thing that helps me in life is to realize that today I owe myself joy. I owe myself contentment because yesterday or 10 years ago or 3 days ago, this was the place that I was praying for. And now that I've arrived to this place, I refuse to make it too familiar that I forget that it is a place that I can rest and be content. It is a place that I can appreciate God for where He has brought me from. That I can sit here and understand that I don't have to wait for a future point where I can decide now I will be content. Now I will be happy. Now I will move in joy. It is a now that you can decide that in this moment, every condition that surrounds you, God is aware of it, and He has put you in that place so that you can learn contentment. Look for the lesson in your present that will teach you how to be content. So, the true freedom, beloved, is that which I've just said, being aware of where you are and how far God has brought you. Paul discovered that Christ wasn't simply helping him reach his destination. He discovered that Christ had become his destination. And because Christ lives in us, this destination right here is the joy moment. It is the fulfillment moment. It is the happy moment. It is the moment that God brought you to because He has helped you in the past to push forward to this point. Now, I want to show us 3 ways that we can overcome this arrival fallacy. This feeling of I have to wait until I have everything. Some of you have postponed big dreams, me inclusive, because when I speak about these things, it's a double-edged sword. I'm teaching myself as well. It's a wisdom conversation, and I want to hear what you think in the comment section. Please keep those comments coming, those interactions coming. I will respond when I'm done. But let's have this conversation because we are all building ourselves up in the wisdom that will help us continue to rise and thrive. So 3 ways, beloved, and I will be done. 3 ways to overcome the arrival fallacy. Number 1, stop postponing your joy. Stop postponing your joy. Ask yourself, am I waiting to leave or am I leaving while I wait? Am I waiting to leave or am I leaving while I wait? Very important question to ask yourself. Every season, beloved, contains evidence of God's goodness. We must understand that fact very well. Every season has a way of showing us the goodness of God. Showing us the goodness of God. And we must be aware and attentive to what God is doing because sometimes we miss God because we're too overtaken by what is not going well. And so we need to understand here that when God is doing something, we are to pay attention so that we can move with Him. We can continue to see what He is doing. So The first thing that you need to do in order to deal with this concept that can actually influence your life in a negative way, because you can become a very bitter and complaining person if you're always waiting for the perfect moment to be happy. So stop postponing your joy. Make a decision that you will be happy now. Ask yourself, am I waiting to leave, or am I leaving while I wait? Because every season, beloved, like I said, will give you something to experience God's goodness in. So don't become so focused on tomorrow that you miss what God is doing today. Contentment begins when we recognize God's presence in our lives. That even now, when things are not the perfect that we want them to be, God is still working. God is still allowing you to breathe. God is still allowing you to have a roof over your head. God is still allowing you to hear the sound of my voice and to gain wisdom, even as you listen to this program. So there are so many things we can be content about in God. Number two, measure growth, not just goals. Sometimes we can be so focused on goals that we don't see the progression of us getting to those goals. When we ignore the process, beloved, we can get frustrated. We can begin to get frustrated and forget that God is doing something in the background. And what he's doing in the journey is part of the process of getting to the ultimate goal that we want to get to. So measure your growth. How have you fared from January to now in July? Has there been any growth? If there's been progress, acknowledge it and thank God for it, and look at it as evidence that you will get to your destination. But don't pause and put your life on hold just because you're waiting for the actual end product, the actual end goal. So growth will tell us who we are becoming. And when we look at, I'm not the same person I was in January. Believe me, I'm not the same person I was last year. I have come a long way, and I've seen God bring me through things that I thought would have just consumed me and just finished me. But me sitting here, even if I'm anticipating better and greater things that I'm waiting for, I still choose to be content and to be joyful and to be grateful, because I know that where I am now is better than where I have been, and I have a reason to be grateful. So God is more interested, beloved, not in the things that we are going to accomplish, the goals, the ministry successes, whatever it is that we want to do as far as the purposes of God are concerned in our lives. He's not interested so much in that, but he's interested in you as the person that is going through this transformation. And this is why, God says to us that to obey is better than sacrifice, because we can sacrifice so many things. We can build things for God. We can make sacrifices for the kingdom and for the purpose that God has set us up to do on this earth. But if we are not obedient to actually sit in the process and allow God to transform us and work through the areas that are holding us back, then God is going to create circumstances, beloved, that will help us grow, that will help us actually become people that will expand our capacity to the capacity that is able to house what we are anticipating to accomplish in the future. Sometimes God will deal with us in the process to expand and stretch us so that when we get to our destination, we have the capacity to hold what we are building with Him. So this is why we need to understand that character is more important to God than what we are building. So instead of asking, have I arrived? When will I arrive? Ask yourself, am I becoming? Am I becoming more like Christ? Am I becoming the person that I envision myself becoming in God? Am I actually transforming each passing day? Not am I accomplishing, but what is this process to accomplishment doing to me as a person, to my character, to my commitment, to my love for God? Because success may change, your circumstances may change, and your goalpost may change. But what has that process done to you as a person. Character changes your life. Circumstances can change around you, but it is character that will change your life. Number three, and the final one, practice gratitude. I think we've touched on this on the two previous points. Be grateful every day. Gratitude, beloved, will change your focus. And this is why in my line of work, you can be dealing with two people that have a diagnosis that is terminal. And one will be focused on the symptoms and how the treatment is not working. And another one will be focusing on how their family is around them during this period where they are going through this very threatening disease. And you find that the person that has the mindset of focusing on what is positive, like family, during an illness, have better outcomes with treatment than those that are focused on how this disease could kill them. So what am I saying? Gratitude can change your focus and shift your atmosphere and also help you deal with this the fallacy of arrival, that you will be happy, you will get everything you want when you arrive in the future. When you focus on the present and the things that are going right and you're grateful, you focus on the right things, you will see that the future doesn't look as daunting or as threatening, and the present doesn't feel as frustrating as it is. So instead of seeing what is missing, beloved, we begin seeing what God has already provided. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. A grateful heart becomes a content heart. So this week, I want to challenge you as I close. I want to challenge you that every evening, write down 3 ways God has been faithful that day. Every single day, three ways that God has been faithful to you. Monday through to Saturday. You'll be amazed at how gratitude changes your perspective on life and on everything that you have been complaining about. So, in application, a single person may think, I'll be happy when I get married. But married couples may think life will be easier when the children grow up. Parents may also think, I'll finally have peace when my children are independent and I no longer have to watch over them as much. And an employee may think everything will improve after my next promotion. Beloved, when you look at these things, like we have said, they are perspectives that we adopt. Some of them come from a mindset that we've developed growing up. And sometimes we think that the grass is greener in the future than it is now. And I have come across many people in counseling and coaching who look back at their life that while they were still expecting their best life, in fact, they had already lived it, but they hadn't realized that was the best time that God had given them in their lives. So we struggle to find the next thing because circumstances always change. When you arrive at the new job, it becomes too familiar and you're seeking the other thing. So I think this is the sort of thing Solomon would call vanity. It's almost like chasing the wind. You arrive and then the next thing. And so what I'm saying to you today, if you're going to forget everything else, is that your future is now. If you're going to start a business, it's now. If you're going to start that relationship, it is now. If you're going to make things right in your marriage, it is now. If you're going to make things right with your children, it is now. There's no perfect moment you're waiting for in the future that will come by surprise and all of a sudden everything will be okay. It is up to you to make the decision that today I am going to begin to live my life. I always warn my clients and my mentees that don't be one of those people that are already dead and they're waiting to be buried. There are a lot of people walking around the face of the earth and they have died and they're waiting to be buried. What do I mean by that? You are not living your life you are too consumed either about what people are doing, what people are saying, the criticism, the condemnation, that you lose sight of the fact that this life is yours and it is yours to govern with the principles that God has given you. And so you walk around the earth waiting for what, who knows, the future that you don't even know. And so you go through the face of the earth and you do time thinking that your best life is ahead of you. And so you're not living at all. You've put your life on hold, waiting for the moment to live. And so you're as good as dead. You've put your plans on hold. Everything is on hold until this thing that you've told yourself has to happen before you do anything. Beloved, that is a fallacy. That's why it's called arrival fallacy. There's no way you are going to arrive that is going to make things the best that you have ever experienced. There will always be something better. So I want to encourage you today that, God is not against dreams. He's not against ambition. He's not against success. In fact, he calls us to pursue excellency. So he never intends our dreams to become our identity, our greatest achievements to become our source of who we are. So it is not about reaching another milestone, beloved. It is about discovering that God has already put in our hands and in our surroundings what we need to be happy now. I will end here, and I hope this has been a blessing to someone. And I hope we have unpacked what arrival fallacy is and how it can rob you of your present and also your future, because it paralyzes your present, and then you can't plan for your future. So I hope you have gotten one or two things. Please, I want to hear your discussions and your comments in the comments below, and let's get interacting in this wisdom conversation around the arrival fallacy psychology concept that we all experience, but we have never actually focused attention on it. So today, I just want to say thank you and welcome back to Rise and Thrive. I'm happy you could join me. And for those that will watch later, happy watching, but let's still interact. I look forward to reading and hearing your comments. From me, Lady D, it's goodbye, and I will see you next time. And we will continue to have guests as we used to have, but I will announce that as things begin to unfold. So God bless you and love you so much. Keep rising, keep thriving.